present these on the overhead drawing. Sure, I'm just going to have you direct your attention to the left. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, this is now on the overhead is what's been marked 8A. Is that a photograph of one of the shoes I just showed you?
Yes.
And what shoe is that?
The right.
And this next is now on the screen is 8B. And what shoe is that?
The left.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Good morning, Mr. Campbell.
Good morning.
When the young man came to your office and you opened the front door, you and Mr. Swithers and the young man had a conversation.
Yes.
And after a short period of time, the three of you went down into the construction area. Is that correct?
Yes.
And am I correct in understanding that the young man exited from the front door and met you because you had gone out the side or back door? Is that right?
Yeah, I can't remember. It might have been. I might have walked through the building because there's another exit in the back, but I can't remember exactly which way we went.
You remember that you and Mr. Swithers went out together?
Yes.
And he's your boss?
Yes.
And in order to get to the area where the body was, did you and Mr. Swithers walk down a hillside adjacent to your building?
Yes.
And as you were walking down that hillside, were you able to see the body?
Not until we got a little further down.
All right. This is a little hill, is that right?
Yeah.
If I could show you a photograph. Is that a photograph of the front of your building?
Yes.
And that's referring to Exhibit 3A. And is this a photograph taken from the construction area looking up that small hill that you were just referring to?
Yes.
And so this is taken from the gravel or dirt road in the construction area looking up at your building?
Yes.
And can you see the door to your office or your company's office from this photograph?
Yeah, the rear door is over here, but the door that the guy knocked on is obstructed by this tree over here.
Okay, so the front door is to the left side of this photograph, is that
Yes.
right? And that's where he came in.
Yep.
And then you say there's you call it a rear door?
Yeah, or a side door.
A side door.
Here.
And it appears kind of right behind that SUV
Yes.
that's in the photograph?
Yes.
And then the three of you came down this small hill?
Yep.
And so you indicated that you came down a small hill and a little further on you saw the body?
Yes.
And the body was sitting just in a clearing with some mounds around it, is
Yes.
that right? And you recall that there was a baseball cap of some sort a few feet away from the body?
Yes.
And you testified that you and Mr. Swithers and the young man were perhaps 10 or 20 feet away from the body?
Yeah.
Now, you said you went back to your office and resumed work.
Yes.
And by the time you went back into your office, had you, had the police arrived yet?
Not yet.
And what did you see about what Mr. Swithers and the young man were doing as you walked back to your office? Did they stay down by the body, or did they walk somewhere else?
They were near the body when I left. I don't know where they went after him.
Okay. And how long did you stay at work that evening?
Another 10 to 20 minutes or so.
Okay. And where do you park your car when you're at work?
It's generally, you can't see it here, but generally near that front door.
So, this shows the front of your building,
Yeah.
and there's a sign that says Cordless Landing in the center of the photograph.
Yes.
And somewhere behind that sign is some parking for people that work in the building?
Yes.
Okay, and that's where you park.
Yeah.
And so when you left 20 minutes later or so, however long it was, had police arrived at the scene by then?
Yes.
And did you stop and speak with the police, or you just went on home?
No, I just went home.
And it was a few days later that you went to the North Attleboro Police Station and spoke with the officers there and allowed them to take photographs of your shoes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me show you Exhibit 6. Do you see your office building in this photograph?
Not sure which one it is.
If I put my finger here,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
does that seem to be your office building?
Yeah, I believe so.
And then the construction area is here.
Yes.
And you see some cars that are parked right in front of your building.
Yes.
Would that be somewhere in there that you would park?
Yeah.
And then there's some cars parked along the side of, or back of your building, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's the side where the car, the side where your side or back door is.
Yes.
And that little hill that you described is going down from those cars down into the construction area.
Yes.
And we saw a little bit of the grassy area here. Different view of it?
Yeah.
All right. So, what did you see with respect to the police activity when you left?
I just saw the cars parked and continuing to move on in
Okay. And so, just showing you this photograph again, there were, do you see the roadway that leads into the construction area?
Yes.
And when you came back to your office building, did you come back up the roadway or did you come back up the hillside?
I can't remember. It might have been the roadway.
Okay. And that roadway is paved in the first part up closest to Dykes Boulevard, and then it becomes gravel and then dirt?
Yes.
And you see there's a line of cars parked at the end of the gravel or pavement?
Yes.
Okay. Down by the scene?
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Sir, I'm just going to show you a couple additional photographs. First, take a look at this one. Do you recognize the scene depicted in this photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and what does that depict?
Our building right here.
Okay. Is it fair to say this is an aerial or taken from the sky?
Yes.
Okay. And the second one, is that, do you recognize what's depicted there?
Yes.
And is that just a different viewpoint?
Yeah.
Describe what's in it.
It's our building here.
Okay. Do they fairly and accurately portray that area at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'm going to offer these as next two exhibits. Okay, Your Honor.
Maybe next exhibit.
9A and B.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I'm just going to show you what's now been marked as 9A. And does that show that area of your building that you just referred to?
Yes.
Okay. Does it show the parking area of your building?
Yes.
And if you could just point to that area where you normally park your car.
It was around here in the front.
Okay, when you say around here in the front, am I fairly...
Yeah, right around your pen, right?
Okay. So when you would, just tell us how you would drive in and park in the mornings.
So I would be coming in from this street here,
Okay.
and then continue on and take a left into the parking lot.
Okay, over here.
Yes.
Now, when Mr. Rankin asked you some questions about how far down you went before you could see this gentleman lying in that area, how did you describe that?
A couple 100 feet or so.
Okay. And just if you could, point to the area where you were, had gone to where you first were able to see this individual.
It must have been, I believe, somewhere around here. I can't
Okay,
remember
you're pointing-
exactly.
Just so I'm not mispointing here, you're saying in this area here?
Yeah. somewhere
Okay.
around there.
Now just describe what this area is here.
Just a row of some trees there.
Okay. With those trees in that condition, at the time this young man came to your building and walked with you down to that, to where you found this gentleman on his back?
I can't remember because they're no longer there. I just don't remember.
Okay. And just directing your attention, is there anything else about the, well, let me ask you this. Has there been some construction since that time that's changed the look of this area?
Yes, these trees are all gone here, and they leveled out the land. Now there's getting ready for some kind of construction there.
Okay. But at the time, were there any buildings or any other
No,
improvements?
it looked just about like that.
Okay. And so when you came in that morning and you would have driven up this road here, what, if anything, were you able to see of that area where later in the evening you found this man lying on his back?
Just hills of dirt. That's all you see there.
Okay. And when you say hills of dirt, did anything obstruct your ability to see all the way back to where later you saw this body?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, there was hills around, so it wasn't directly visible.
Okay. Now I'm just going to put on 9B on the overhead. Can you see that all right?
Yes.
Now, is this just a different view of your building?
Yes.
And what view is it? Like, what side are we on now?
We're from the rear, where the front there, so that would be the front of the building.
Okay, and you were pointing up here is what you're referring
Yeah.
to as the front.
Yes.
And when you were asked some questions about leading out of the back, would that be over in this area?
Yes.
Now, when you just mentioned mounds of dirt, do you see any mounds of dirt in this photograph?
Yeah. Around here.
And is that, or were those items in that condition the day that you observed this body in the back area there?
Yeah, I remember seeing something like that.
If I could approach this. So I have one more photograph to show you. You recognize that?
Yes.
Okay, and what is this?
So again, our building.
Is it a different viewpoint?
Yes.
From what viewpoint is this?
From the right side, if you're looking at it from the front.
Okay. Does that fairly and accurately portray the location of your building and the surrounding areas back in June of 2013?
Yes.
If I could mark this as the next exhibit, please. Okay.
Maybe Max, next exhibit. Exhibit 10.
Sir, I'm going to place number 10 now on the overhead. Is that the photograph I just showed you?
Yes.
And what viewpoint is this? What areas of the building is this showing?
From the right side?
Okay. And does that show the area where you would typically park in the morning?
Yes, it'd be over here.
Okay. Does it also show a row of trees between your building and where you observed this body in the back?
Yes.
And just, Mr. Rankin had asked you about whether on your way down you had gone down a hill.
Yes.
Just talk about the topography of that land from where you left your building to where you found. How did that land in terms of elevation-wise?
Yeah, so there was a slope here going downwards. This is the hill we were talking about.
Okay, and if you could just do your finger again showing that.
So it would go from here down.
Okay, here, down, and then, sorry, down over this way.
Yeah.
Okay. And from your parking area, were you able to see this body that you later saw in the afternoon?
No, not from the parking area.
Okay, and what obstructed it or hindered your ability to see into that area?
I believe it was the combination of the trees and the dirt and the mound.
Okay, and what about just even the elevation?
Yeah, and just the elevation as well.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further on.
So, Mr. Cambio, you remember going to the North Attleboro Police Station,
Yes.
and you brought your shoes along, and you were interviewed, correct?
Yes.
You put a little room, and the recording was made of your interview.
Yes.
Related to,
I'm going to impeach the witness in a moment with the prior testimony.
related to.
His testimony on redirect.
Right.
Thank
I
you.
see.
And you talked to Detective Chicchio
I don't remember the name.
and Trooper Chervin,
I don't remember the name, but yeah, I talked to two people.
and that was on June 21?
Don't remember the date, but it must have been around there. Yes.
Within
Yeah, a couple of days.
4 days, perhaps, 3 days afterwards.
Yes.
And then you remember going to testify at a grand jury,
Yes.
and there was a prosecutor there, correct?
Yes.
And that was Mr. Bomberg.
I believe so.
Do you recognize Mr. Bomberg?
I don't remember his face,
Okay. But you were in the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
And you were asked about the same subject matter that you testified to today.
Yes.
And you recall being asked, so you leave the business at Corliss Landing, correct? Page
Yes.
106. You remember that question? You leave the building at Corliss Landing?
I can't remember that far back.
So, let me just show you this. Have you seen this before? The prosecutor show you this
Not those pages, but I did see the
testimony?
the testimony. Yes.
Okay. So that's your name? Yes?
Yes.
All right. And that's you,
Yes.
Mr. Bomberg? So you're asked, see if I read it correctly,
I'm sorry, Mr. Rankin, can I just have the line numbers, please?
starting at line 5 and going through line 17.
Thank you.
And so you leave the business at Corliss Landing, correct?
Yes.
And your answer was yes. You
Yes.
have to answer out loud.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And then you say, and then the question was, you walk now away from John Deitch Boulevard, is that true? And
Yes.
your answer is yes.
Yes.
And then the next question is, into that open area, question mark, and you say yes.
Yes.
And then Mr. Bomberg said, and as you're walking, do you make observations? Do you see something? And your answer is, yeah, like once we go down a small hill, indicating you could see that there was a body or a person just laying down.
Yes.
Okay. So as you go down, once you go down the small hill, you were able to see the body,
Yes.
correct? That's right?
Yes.
Nothing further. Is there anything different than what you just told this jury?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
You may sit down.
David Swithers, please.
Please remain standing, face the clerk, and raise your right hand.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give to this court and this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank
Have
you.
a seat, sir.
May I, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. State your full name, please.
David Swithers,
Can you spell your last name?
S-W-I-T-H-E-R-S,
How old are you, sir?
60.
Are you working?
Yes.
What do you do for work?
I'm the president of Advanced Electronic Design.
Okay, and how long have you been the president of that company?
Since I started the company in 1998.
Okay. What do you do at that company?
We make ruggedized computers for police cars and fire trucks.
And where's your company located?
344 John Deach Boulevard.
Okay. Are you familiar with the location of Corliss Landing?
Yes.
Where is that located?
That's the 344 John Deach Boulevard building.
Okay, just describe that property.
It's a business condo building with 20 condo units.
Okay, and how long have you been at that location?
About 9 years now.
Okay, where is your office located in that building?
It's the front right corner.
And are there these other units, are there 19 other units?
Yes.
Are there various businesses that operate out of that building?
Yes.
And just generally, the hours of your company's operation is what?
9 to 5.
And what about these other businesses?
A lot of them are contractors, so they work different hours.
Okay. And during the course of, well, let me ask you this. Directing your attention back to June 17th of 2013, do you recall working on that date?
Yes.
Do you recall that being a Monday?
Yes.
What days did you typically work?
Monday through Friday.
Okay. And you had some employees?
Yes.
How many?
At that time, I think we had 14 employees.
Okay. Was William Cambio one of them?
Yes.
Now, directing your attention to sometime approximately 5:30 in the evening, were you at your office?
Yes.
And just with regard to how would you gain access to your office?
You go in the front entrance to the building, and my office is to the left.
Okay, how far are you from the front door?
The door to my office is about 10 feet from the front door.
Is it visible from where you sit or in your office to be able to see the front door?
No.
Okay. At some point around 5:30, did something attract your attention?
Yes, somebody was knocking on the front door.
Okay. Was the door locked at that time?
Yes.
As a result of the knocking, did you do anything?
Initially, no.
Did you hear anybody else? Well, first of all, who else was in the office at that time?
William Cambio and Jim DeLuey and Doug Surratt.
Okay. And did you hear anything as a result of the knocking in between when you first heard the knocking? Did you then hear something within a minute or so?
Yes.
And what did you hear?
William Cambio went and opened the front door to let the person in.
Okay. And as a result of that, did you ultimately, did you hear any conversation, just yes or no?
Yes.
And as a result of hearing that, did you leave your office?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I went out into the reception area.
Okay. Tell us what you saw when you went there.
There was a 15-year-old teenager who was wearing jogging clothes.
Okay. And just describe his demeanor at that time.
He seemed excited and agitated and nervous.
Okay. And did you, just yes or no, did you have a conversation with him?
Yes.
And as a result of that, did you go anywhere?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you go?
He led us out to the back of the building.
Okay. And when you say he led you out of the back of the building, Where did you go from that location?
Out into the field behind the building.
Okay. And the field behind the building, just describe that field.
It was an empty industrial site.
Okay. And were there any improvements or buildings, homes, anything in that area?
No,
Are there any lightings, like street lights, or any improvements in that area?
no.
And how long had you been at that office at Corliss Landing? Just in terms of your business, how long had you been at that location?
About 9 years.
And how long had that field, that open field, been in that condition?
Since we moved in there.
Okay. And do you know if that field, did you ever, well, do you know what it was being used for?
It's just empty land. That I
Okay. Did
intended-
you ever see any activity in there around this time, June of 2013?
No.
Now, in terms of pedestrian traffic or other vehicle traffic, did you ever see people using that area?
I didn't see them.
Okay. Now, after this teenager is leading you down, how far do you go with following him?
I guess it's about 50 yards.
Okay. And when you, at some point in time as you're walking along with this young man, is your attention drawn to something?
Yes.
What is that?
There was an individual lying on the ground.
Okay. And do you recall where you were when you were first able to see that? How far were you from this individual lying on the ground?
Probably 20 yards away or so.
And when you made this observation of this individual lying on the ground when you first made it 20 yards away, did you go any closer?
Yes.
How close did you go to this individual?
I think we were about 20 feet away.
Okay. And when you went to about 20 feet away, just describe what you saw.
I saw an African-American male, I guess between 25 and 35 years old, lying on his back. He was stiff and motionless, and there were flies flying in and out of his nostrils.
As a result of making that observation, did you go any closer?
No.
Okay. What did you do?
I said to the
It's what did you do, not what did you say?
Yes, sir. Just what did you do?
I called 911.
Okay. And after calling 911, were you able to speak to somebody?
Yes.
Okay. And did you make a report of what you observed, yes or no?
Yes.
And as a result of that, did you have a conversation with these other two, Mr. Cambio and this teenager, just yes or no?
Yes.
And as a result of that, what happened? Where did you go?
We walked back to the edge of the pavement.
Okay. And when you say you walked back to the edge of the pavement, who walked with you?
William Cambio and the teenager.
Okay. And when you indicate to the edge of the pavement, how far is that now from where you had ultimately stopped to make the observations that you've described?
I think it's about 30 yards.
Okay. And so what was your purpose in going to that location?
To be able to direct the police officers who responded.
Okay. At some point, did you see any police officers respond?
Yes.
How long after your phone call?
I think it was about 5 minutes.
Okay. How many police officers responded?
Initially, a plainclothes officer in a unmarked car.
Okay. And just yes or no, did you have any conversation with him?
No.
Okay. And did you see after, when you indicate he was traveling in a unmarked car, at some point did he get out of the car?
Yes.
In what direction did he go?
He went down to where the body was.
Okay. When he first got out, did he approach your position?
Yes.
Okay. And did anybody else have any conversation, if you remember?
I don't
Just yes or
recall.
no? Okay. And after that, did he go by your location?
Yes.
And where did he go?
Down to the location where the body was.
Okay. How long did you stay in the position that you were in when the officer arrived?
I mean, in total, I think we were there for 20 or 30 minutes.
Okay. And at some point, did Mr. Cambio go somewhere?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did, just yes or no, did you speak to any officers at the scene?
A uniformed officer came a few minutes after the plainclothes officer and went down to the scene and then came back and told us to wait, that
Okay.
they'd want to talk to us later.
Okay, and at some point, did they talk to you?
Yes.
Okay, and did you see them taking any action with regards to the scene?
I couldn't really see the scene from where we were standing,
Okay, and where were you standing at that point where you couldn't see it?
on the edge of the paved area.
Okay, and you said you remained there for some number of minutes,
Yes.
and then where did you go from there?
After I filled out a written statement as requested, I went back in my office and fetched my briefcase and then went out and got in my car and went home.
Okay, and sometime after leaving, do you know when you followed this young man down to that location where you made the observations you've described, just describe what the weather was like at that time?
It was clear and sunny.
Okay, later, did that change?
Yes.
How did that change?
It got cloudy and started to rain.
Okay, where were you when it started to rain?
I think when I was driving home, it was starting to sprinkle a little.
Okay, and did it get heavier or lighter after it started sprinkling?
Later, it rained quite heavily.
Okay. Now, within a few days of now, this Monday the 17th, did you have further contact with the police, just yes or no?
Yes.
As a result of that, did you go somewhere?
Yes.
Where did you go?
They asked me to come to the police station.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Did you bring anything with you?
They asked me to bring the shoes I was wearing that day.
And did you do that?
Yes.
And how many pairs of shoes did you bring?
I brought two.
And what caused you to bring two?
I couldn't remember which pair of shoes I was wearing that day.
Okay. Do you have different shoes that you wear day to day?
Yes.
And are they a particular brand of shoe?
Yes.
What brand?
The Abio.
Okay. And Abio, do you wear those shoes for any particular reason?
Yes, they're orthopedic shoes to help with my bad knee and hip.
Okay. And is there a reason you alternate your shoes?
They're different colors for...
Okay. And so the shoes that you brought, the two shoes, were one of those shoes the shoes that you had been wearing on Monday, June 17th?
Yes.
Approach. I'm going to show you these four photographs. This is the first one. You recognize that shoe?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's my black pair of shoes.
Okay, and can you indicate whether that's a right or left shoe?
It's a left.
I'm sorry. If you were putting that, what foot would that go on?
I'm sorry, it is a right shoe.
Okay.
It's upside down.
I'm sorry. And how about this shoe?
It's the other black shoe.
Okay, and what shoe would that be? What foot would that go on?
The left foot.
This next photograph I'm showing you, do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
That's my brown pair of shoes.
Okay, and that's obviously different than your black pair. Is that true?
Yes.
And what shoe, what foot would this go on?
I believe that's a left shoe.
Okay, and then the last one, what color is that shoe?
That's my other brown shoe.
And that would go on which foot?
The right foot.
Okay. And is it fair, do these pictures fairly and accurately depict the condition of your shoes when you went to the police station with them?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd offer this is the next exhibit. No objection, Your Honor.
Coming back to the next exhibit.
Okay. Is the overhead. So in the place what's now been marked 11A, it's right to your left. You see that all right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the shoe you described as your right, the right shoe of your black Abio?
Yes.
11B, would that be the corresponding left shoe?
Yes.
11C, this is referred to as a brown shoe, is that right?
Yes.
And would that be the left brown shoe?
Yes.
Lastly, this would be, 11D would be the right?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, sir, how long have you lived in the, let me ask you this, do you live in the North Attleboro area?
Yes.
And you travel to and from your work from your home?
Yes.
And how do you travel? Like at some point, how do you approach on John Deach Boulevard?
Going north?
And what road do you turn off to go north on John Deach?
Commonwealth Avenue?
Okay. And do you know where Robert Toner is?
Yes.
Okay. And do you travel on Robert Toner at all?
Yes.
Okay. So when you turn from Robert Toner, do you turn onto John Deach?
Yes.
And just at that corner, is there a gas station?
Yes.
Do you know what the name of that is, or what kind of gas station it is?
I think it's a Gulf station.
Okay. Now, as you travel down, are you familiar with the North Attleboro Industrial Park?
Yes.
And do you know where that begins?
I guess it begins about 100 yards from that intersection with Toner Boulevard and John Deach.
Okay. And are you familiar with a business called Answers Fitness?
Yes.
And is that in that general area?
Yes.
Now, as you travel north on John Deach, do you go by other businesses?
Yes.
What other businesses are you familiar with?
Seekonk Supply.
Okay. And would that be on your right or left as you're traveling north on John Deach?
It's on the left.
Okay. And what type of business is that?
It's a plumbing wholesale supply house.
Okay. And as you continue now, and what is your estimate of the distance from once you turn on to John Deach and you go north to where you pull into Corliss Landing? How far is that approximately?
I think it's about a half a mile.
Okay. And just before you pull into your the location of your business, 344 John Deach, is there a business off to your right?
Yes.
And what is the name of that business?
Metal ore.
Okay. And can you just do you know what kind of business that is?
I believe they do precious metal plating.
Okay. And if you continue where you go, when you get to that location, if you go straight, you're into Corliss Landing. If you take a right, continuing on John Deach, where do you go from there?
There's a stop sign at the bottom of the hill.
Okay. And what happened, or is there a business across the street from the stop sign? Well, let me ask you this first. Are you familiar with the road at the stop sign, the intersecting road?
Yes.
What is that?
If you turn left there, it's still John Deach Boulevard.
Okay. And then if you continue left there and go down, strike that, just on John Deach Boulevard, what's the topography of that land? Are you going up, down, or just staying the same?
There's a downhill from our building to that intersection, and then the slight uphill from that intersection to Landry Avenue.
Okay. When you arrive at Landry Avenue, are there any businesses in that vicinity, right at the intersection of John Deach and Landry?
The North Attleboro Electric Company is across the street.
Okay. And if you take a left on Landry Ave there, are you familiar where the high school is?
Yes.
How far is that from that if you took a left at that location?
About a half a mile.
Okay. If I could have one moment, Your Honor. show you what's previously been marked 9A. And you've indicated you've been at your location for a number of years, is that true?
Yes.
And is there a building in this picture that you recognize to be the building that you work out of?
Yes.
Okay, and where is that?
This building here?
Okay, and you're indicating it here?
Yes.
And you said at one point, I asked you, where is your office located in the building?
It's in the front right corner here?
Front right corner, so there's a tree right there, that's
Yes.
right? And where do you park, generally speaking?
At that time, I used to park in the back of the building.
Okay, in the back, and so you just pointed, correct me if I'm wrong, to this area?
Yes.
And you, how do you enter in the morning when you're coming north on John Deach? To your building, or to the property?
Yeah, this is John Deach Boulevard here.
Okay. Now, where does John, as you come up John Deach, where does John Deach continue?
It makes a 90-degree turn and goes,
Okay, and is that somewhat obstructed by these trees here?
yes,
You can see it continue over here.
correct?
You indicated that if you continued along here, at some point you come to a stop sign?
Yes.
Now, when you traveled in the mornings to the to your office, and you would enter off of John Deach from this area,
Yes.
and to get to where you were parking, how would you drive?
You go down this little stub street here
Right.
and then turn left into the driveway of the building
Okay,
and then around the back of the building.
and then you're indicating like a button hook and pull up to the building that way.
Yes.
Now, on Monday, June 17, 2013, as you entered and went to park in that area, did you make any observations of this area back in here?
No.
Is there something that would have interfered with your ability to look in that area?
Yes.
What is that?
And there's from here, there's a steep down slope,
Okay.
and then there's a hillock here. Where
You're
there's,
indicating a hill going along here?
yes, that those trees are on the top of.
Okay. And the topography of land, then, earlier you had indicated it goes downhill. Just describe where is the downhill?
Right here.
And you're indicating right over here?
Yes.
Okay. And those trees, this row of trees, were they, did they exist in this condition on June 17th of 2013?
Yes.
Now, has that changed since that time?
Yes.
And how has it changed?
Those trees have all been cut down and this hillock has been graded away.
Okay. So currently, what can you see if you were in the back here parking? What area or what part of this field would you be able to see?
Today you can see almost all of it.
Okay. That's not how it existed then.
No.
And I'm putting 9B on the overhead. Is that, do you recognize what's depicted in 9B?
Yes.
Is that just a different viewpoint?
Yes.
And this in here, where I'm pointing to, do you know what these things are?
Yes, they're piles of construction debris.
And what was their condition? Was that similar or dissimilar to how they appeared back in June 17, 2013?
That looks exactly like they were at that time.
And lastly, I'm going to put exhibit number 10 on the overhead. Does this show just a different angle of that location?
Yes.
And are those piles, can you see them in this photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have.
Morning, Mr. Swithers.
Good morning.
So, you said that there were, in June of 2013, there were some other businesses in your building,
Yes.
and I think you described them as contractors,
Yes, most of them are.
and you indicated that they would have different hours than 9 to 5 office hours that you typically kept,
Yes.
so they might be there early or late.
Most of them work earlier, and most of
Okay.
them are gone by 3 or 4 o'clock.
Okay. But typically, when you arrive at 9 or sometimes before 9, those people have been there for some time.
Yes.
And you said that the young man, Mr. Kent, did you learn his name eventually?
Yes.
He led you out of the back of the building,
Yes.
and that would be the side closest to the construction area?
Yes.
And the three of you went down that little hill
Yes.
in the direction of the body?
Yes.
And once you got down that little hill, were you able to see the body from some distance?
Yes.
And is that looking up at your office building from the little hill?
Yes.
And the black surface that appears in the lower part of that picture, that would be the blacktop?
I'm not sure what blacks are, oh, here?
Yes. That would be the roadway?
Yes.
The blacktop or gravel?
Best I can tell from this angle.
And so that's approximately where the three of you walked down?
Yes.
And as you walked down, or once you got down there, you were able to see the body?
Yes.
Now, do you recall, apart from Mr. Kent, previous to this, and previous to June 17, 2013, seeing people walk or jog through that area, the construction area?
I don't remember seeing people.
Do you remember the officer, the plainclothes officer that you first encountered when the police were called to the scene?
Vaguely, I only saw him for a few seconds.
Was that Captain Dorenzo from the North Attleboro Police Department?
I don't recall.
Okay. And you recall going to the North Attleboro Police Station a few days later when you brought your shoes in?
Yes.
And did you meet with the same individual that had been the first officer to arrive at the scene?
I don't recall.
And in addition to giving them shoes, you were interviewed, is that right?
Yes.
And you were interviewed on video and audio tape, correct?
I don't know if they were taping it or not.
Do you remember them saying, you know, we're audio and videotaping you, is that all right with you?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you tell him that lots of people walk and jog through there?
I may have said that. I've heard that.
You heard that?
Yes.
But you told Captain Dorenzo that lots of people walk and jog through there.
I may have, yes.
Do you want to listen? Have you listened to the tape?
I have not had the opportunity to.
Would you like to listen to the tape to see if that refreshes your recollection?
I mean, if you say that's what I said, then that's what I said.
Will you take my representation?
Yes.
That you said that to Captain Dorenzo?
Yes.
That lots of people walk and jog through this?
Again, not from my observation, but that's what I've heard.
Well, you understood that this was a homicide investigation, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's not every day that you're a witness in a homicide investigation.
Yes.
So it was serious moment, correct?
Yes.
I mean, it's not every day that you're asked to come to the North Attleboro Police Station and be interviewed, right?
Correct.
And so you were trying to give the police all of the information you could to assist them. Is that fair?
It's argument that he's indicated the source of his knowledge.
Overall,
And you were trying to indicate to the police everything you could to assist in their investigation, right?
Again, I've heard that a lot of people walk and jog through there.
And you heard that from other employees of your company.
I'm not sure what source I heard it from.
Do you remember?
No.
But it was reliable enough for you to tell Captain Dorinza.
Yes.
And Captain Dorinza asked, is there anything else that you know about this investigation that might help? Right?
I don't recall.
And did you tell him that a female employee of your company saw a black SUV parked there the morning of the discovery of the body?
I don't really recall that, but it sounds, now that you say it, it sounds like something I think I said.
So will you accept my representation that that's on the tape?
Yes.
Now, once you got to the roadway down the hill, you didn't have any trouble seeing the body, correct?
Once we run around the corner, around that hillock and tree.
It was right there.
Yes.
I mean, if the body had been behind one of those mounds, you wouldn't have been able to see it. Is that fair?
Correct.
Let me show you Exhibit 9A, which is an aerial photograph that the prosecutor showed you. Sorry. So, your building is in this area, is that correct?
Yes.
And you walk down this little hill right there to the roadway,
Yes.
and then you were able to see the body.
Yes.
And just in terms of orientation, this open area on the other side of the construction area is Landry Avenue.
Yes.
And so one could, if one were walking or jogging, one could go down John Dykes Boulevard, past the entrance to your area, down the dirt and the gravel and dirt road, and straight across the Landry Avenue. Is that right?
Yes.
And there was nothing obstructing the view from Landry Avenue at that time. Is that right?
I don't think you could have seen the body from Landry Avenue.
Well, there was nothing, no trees were interfering with the view from Landry Avenue. Is that right?
There's no trees, but there's hillocks and gullies through there.
And if a car were passing by on Landry Avenue and a car were in the construction site, would you be able to see the car in the construction site?
Objection, Your Honor.
overall,
Would you be able to see if you were standing on Landry Avenue right here and there was a car down in the construction site, would you be able to see it?
No.
Okay. And the reason you couldn't see it?
Because there's hills and gullies in that area.
All right. And so, how many hills were there?
I don't know.
I mean, this photograph, you know, this photograph was taken shortly after the discovery of the body, right?
Yes.
I mean, you see some of the police vehicles or tarps or that kind of stuff there.
Yes.
And you see several hillocks or construction debris mounds there, is that right?
Yes.
So obviously if a vehicle is behind, is concealed by a mound, you're not going to see it if you're on Landry Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And if it's not behind a mound, you'd be able to see it.
That's possible.
Do you know about the distance from the beginning of the construction site to Landry Avenue? What's that dimension?
I guess 100 yards.
Okay, so it's about 100 yards from the beginning of the construction site to Landry Avenue.
Yes.
So I think you said that you and Mr. Cambio and Mr. Kent walked, after you made the 911 call, the three of you walked back up towards the John Beach Boulevard.
Yes.
And your thinking at the time was, if we don't walk up there, then the police may not be able to find where we are.
Correct.
And so you and Mr. Kent walked the distance up the roadway, and am I correct that Mr. Cambio went back inside, went back to work?
I don't recall.
Do you recall him being there when the first detective arrived?
Again, I don't recall.
Okay. And you said it was about 5 minutes before the first policeman arrived?
Yes.
And you had a conversation with the policeman or no?
No.
He just walked right by the two of you?
Yes.
And what did you see as he walked by you?
Do you mean how he was dressed, or?
No, I'm sorry. What did he do? Where did he go?
He walked back down the dirt road to the direction.
What did you see him do?
Once he went around the corner behind the trees in that hillock, we couldn't see him anymore.
So you were all the way up to the top of the road?
Yes.
And did he remain down there, or did he come back?
I don't recall him coming back.
Okay. And how long after the first detective arrived did the cruiser arrive?
I think about a minute.
Okay. And did you have any interaction with that officer?
Yes.
And did you remain there for a period of time?
Yes.
About how long?
I think 20 or 30 minutes.
Okay. And in the course of that 20 or 30 minutes, you made a written statement?
Yes.
And then you went back into your workplace and left shortly thereafter?
Yes.
So by the time, excuse me, by the time you gave your written statement and went back inside your building, how many police officers or first responders had arrived?
I don't recall.
More than just the two that you've described?
I believe at least one more marked car arrived.
Any unmarked cars?
I really don't recall.
Any EMTs or ambulance?
I don't recall.
That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Stewart.
Just a couple of follow-ups. When Mr. Rankin asked you about if you didn't walk up there, you were concerned the police wouldn't see you?
Yes.
Okay, what would prevent them from being able to see you where you were at that time before walking up?
Again, that hillock and the tree line blocked the view from the paved area.
Okay. After you walked up to the position you ultimately stayed at, was that unobstructed? You could see John Beach Boulevard?
Yes.
And when Mr. Rankin asked you about what's possible, about what you could see from Landry Avenue, you don't know what was possible to be able to see on Landry Avenue, because you never went and looked from that angle. Is that right?
And I drive down that street occasionally.
Okay, but my question is, when you were first asked, you said you couldn't see anything because of the mounds and the gullies, I think, in the hills. Is that right?
Yes.
And if I could, Your Honor, number 6, just going to put on the overhead here, and direct your attention to this is Landry Avenue, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. This is where the area where you observed that man, the body of that man, on June 7th.
Leading, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is where you observed the body of the man on June 17th. What would have interfered with the
Well,
ability?
you can ask him to confirm that that is where.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Your Honor. Is that, this area I'm pointing to here, sir, is that the area where you observed the body of,
I think it was over this way a little farther.
okay.
A little hard to tell on that blurry
Okay,
photograph.
let me just see if I can. Does that help you at all? Is it just made it more blurry?
That's more blurry.
Okay. If I could have one moment now. So let me first show you exhibit number 10. I'm sorry. Okay. Now this is from a different angle, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Now if you could just point out the general area.
It was right here on the edge of this black mound.
Okay. Okay. And in that area, sir, if you just point there again, please, so I can... Right? You're indicating right in here.
On the other side,
Okay, you believe it to be on that side?
right in here.
Okay. Now, just understanding, this is looking, I'm going back now to exhibit 6. Okay. Do you see anything from that area you've described? Do you see anything that would obstruct the view from Landry Avenue to the area you just pointed to?
Well, there's
I'm sorry.
a
you're
mound
pointing to-
here,
Here? Okay, what else?
and this black mound as well, and I think there's some other mounds in that area.
Okay. So based on your memory of what you would be able to see of Landry Avenue from a position where the body was, what would you be able to see?
I don't think you could see that area at all.
Thank you. Oh, excuse me, I got one more. So I'm going to show you an additional photograph here. Do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
The body?
Okay. And is that in the position when you first observed it in the afternoon or early evening of June 17th?
The best of my recollection, yes.
Okay. And you, do you recall there being an item of clothing near the body?
Yes.
And is that reflected in this photograph?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd offer this is the next exhibit. No objection, Your Honor.
And Max is the next exhibit?
Exhibit 12.
Please give it this one. So I'm now placing exhibit number 12 on the overhead. That's the photograph I just showed you, is that right?
Yes.
Now, and you've indicated this is the position of the body that you had observed it?
Yes.
Is there anything, just if you first could just tell, where's Landry Avenue from this location?
Over here?
You're indicating over here?
Yes.
Let me just move this over, in this area.
Yes.
Do you see any obstructions between where this man's body is and where Landry Avenue would be?
Yes.
What is that?
There's a hillock here. It looks like there's another ridge behind that one.
I'm just going to ask you, when you're looking over to the monitor, it's not to hear your voice, to just, please keep your voice up. You're not in front of the microphone at that time.
Sir, would you mind just repeating that last answer? What would obstruct your view of Landry Avenue?
This mound, and I think there's another hillock behind it.
In that area there? Okay. I got one moment more. No further questions. Thank you, sir. One moment more.
So, Mr. Swithers, I'm going to show you Exhibit 10. You see the black mound there, which is kind of close to the line of police cars?
Yes.
And I think you indicated that the body was between the black mound and that row of police cars when you were being questioned by Mr. McCauley?
Yes.
And then you were shown a photograph, I think it's the most recent exhibit, Exhibit 12. That shows other mounds, is that right?
Yes.
So you think that this photograph, Exhibit 12, shows where the body was when you saw it, correct?
Yes.
And so it's not in front of the black mound, it's in front of another mound.
Yes.
And that's just because your memory of the events has faded a bit over the last 18 months?
I assume, or I'm misinterpreting the photos.
Okay. Thank you.
You may step down.
Your Honor, the next witness we call is Captain John White.
Please remain standing, face the clerk, and raise your right hand.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give to this court in this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Have a seat, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
State your full name.
John White, Jr.
Okay. And do you work?
Yes,
Where do you work?
for the North Attleboro Fire Department,
And how long have you worked there?
for 26 years.
Where did you work prior to that?
I worked in the town of Plainville for their fire department.
How many years did you work there?
3.
What is your current rank?
Captain.
And how long have you been a captain?
Probably about 11 years now, maybe.
Okay. And what are your duties as captain of the North Attleboro Fire Department?
My duties are to be the incident commander, control all of shift, 11 or 12 gentlemen that work on my shift, and supervise them.
Okay. How many people are under your command on any given shift?
11 or 12.
Do you have any other training with regards to emergency responses?
Yes, I am a paramedic certified by the state and nationally.
Okay. And how long have you been a paramedic?
Since 1991.
Approximately how many emergency situations have you been called to over the course of your career?
Thousands.
And I'd like to direct your attention to June 17th of 2013. Were you working on that date?
Yes, I was.
Can you just tell us what is your schedule of working hours?
We work a 24-hour shift, 8 a.m. to the following day, 8 a.m.
Okay.
On this particular day, I was stayed over. I was assigned till 6 p.m.
Okay, so when would your 24-hour shift, the 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock, when would that have begun?
The day before.
Okay, and was that a Sunday? June 16th, 2013?
It could be.
Okay. So you would have worked, and you did work on that date, the 16th,
Yes.
and that would have been 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the following date, which would be what day?
A Monday.
Okay,
Yep.
Okay, and that being June 17th.
Okay.
Did you continue to work an additional shift after that?
Yes, I did.
And how long was that shift?
10-hour shift till 6 p.m.
Now, just before the end of that shift, do you recall receiving a dispatch?
Yes.
And as a result of that dispatch, did you go somewhere?
Yes.
Where were you when you received that dispatch?
At fire headquarters, 50 Elm Street.
Okay, and that's in North Attleboro?
In North Attleboro, yes.
And as a result of receiving that dispatch, where did you go?
I responded to the call on John Deach Boulevard near the Corliss Landing building.
Okay, and how far was that from your location at the station?
That would have been a couple of miles, between 2 and 3 miles.
Okay, how did you travel from the station to that location?
In my command car, I have an SUV, and I used Landry Avenue to access John Deach Boulevard.
Okay, and approximately how long did it take after you received the call?
Probably 5 minutes.
And what time do you recall receiving that call?
It was almost near the end of the shift, so in the 5:30, 5:45 range.
Now, tell us what, once you arrived, tell us what you did.
I parked my vehicle. There were other police cars parked away from the scene, back from the scene. I took all my emergency medical gear with me, my first aid bag, oxygen, AED, and I started to walk towards where the person was reported to be.
Okay. Did you just describe that general area?
It was a undeveloped area of the industrial park. It had like a dirt road, access going into it, trees, rocks, dirt, that kind of undeveloped space.
In the prior, essentially 36 hours since when you began your shift on Sunday, had you received any other calls to respond to that area?
No.
Now, once, how long did you walk before you were able to see something?
We were probably in about 100 yards, maybe.
Okay. And at that time, what did you see?
There was a gentleman laying on the ground.
Okay. And what action did you take with regard to this gentleman lying on the ground?
I went up to assess the patient. So I went up and I felt for pulse. I saw that there was no breathing while I was walking towards them, or potential effort, and felt for a pulse.
Okay. What happened when you felt, well, first of all, where did you feel for a pulse?
And it's carotid on the neck.
Okay. And you're indicating that's on the side of the neck?
Yes, good.
Just describe the position of this gentleman.
The person was laying on their back, face up. Yeah.
Okay. When you went to feel for the pulse on the side of his neck, that being the right side?
Yes, it's the right side.
Okay. What happened?
He had no pulse At that time, I felt the skin. He was very cool to touch at that time, and he was very stiff.
Okay, when you say he was very stiff, describe what you mean.
You couldn't move his jaw. You couldn't move his arms. He had rigor mortis had set in.
Okay. And as a result of your observations and you're making these assessments, did you manipulate the body in any way from its original position?
No.
Did you make any observations about any other items that were in that area?
Yes.
And what was that?
There was a fairly new baseball hat that was near our patient, and there was, I don't know how many exactly, but there was shell casings around the person.
Okay. As a result of making these observations, there was no breathing?
No breathing.
Cold to the touch?
Cold to the touch.
And stiff. What finding did you make at that time?
That he was not a viable patient for resuscitation.
Okay. And as a result of that, did you...
Pronounced him dead on the scene at that time, yes.
Now, as a result of pronouncing him dead at the scene, or dead on the scene, what additional actions did you take at that point?
We documented the fact that I brought one of the people down that was on the ambulance so that we could document appropriately what we could of the patient.
Okay. Now, while you were making these observations, did you recall what time you pronounced him dead?
Probably in the year a quarter of 46, 47, somewhere in that time. I don't remember exactly. 5:47, yes.
You're on the approach. Just going to show you this photograph. Ask if you recognize it.
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
That's me in the picture, the gentleman from the ambulance, one of the police officers, and the patient that I evaluated.
Okay, and is that the condition or the position you found him in?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the time that you were there, during the time that you were there, did you see anyone manipulating anything about the scene?
The only thing that happened was one of the police officers was trying to decide about picking up the shell casings due to the weather.
Okay. Now let me just put number 12 now on the overhead. That's to your left, sir. Can you see that all right?
Okay.
Okay. And you indicated you're in this picture?
Yes, I'm in the white shirt.
Okay, so that would be you here?
Yes.
And this gentleman next to you?
That would be paramedic Josh Langell, who was assigned to the ambulance that day.
And this individual, do you know who that is behind you?
One of the police officers, I'm not sure which one it is.
You know an officer, Grimm?
Yes, John Grimm.
Can you tell from this photograph whether that is him or not? Sorry.
It could be.
Does that help you at all?
It certainly could be him.
Okay.
You know, it's sort of blurry for me.
Now, at this time, when you first arrived, can you just describe the weather?
It was sunny, clear sky.
And did that change during the time that you were at the scene?
Yes.
Okay, how did it change?
We were under a severe weather watch for severe thunderstorms that were supposed to be coming through the area.
Okay. And just tell me about the condition of the sky. How did that change?
It went from being very nice and sunny to on the horizon we could see black clouds coming towards us.
Okay. And directing your attention to Exhibit 12, the condition of the sky at the time this photograph was taken was what?
Directly overhead is probably just sunny still, but you can see in the back that it's very dark clouds.
Okay. As a result of what you observed in terms of the coloring of the sky, did you have any conversation with anyone else at the scene? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And as a result of those conversations, did you do anything?
Yes.
And what was that?
I provided them with a tent and some salvage covers for protection.
Okay. And at some point, did you see whether the condition of the weather was getting better or worse or staying the same?
Oh, it was getting worse. The wind was starting to pick up. The clouds were getting closer.
Okay. And during that time, what was happening at the scene, either by yourself or other officers that you observed?
They were controlling access to the scene, back near where we parked the cars. There was a detective who was worried about the rain may destroy some evidence. That was why I offered a tent and salvage covers. That's all we would have.
Okay. And as a result, did you see any either tents or tarps used in any manner?
We brought them there. We did not set them up ourselves or cover anything.
Okay. Now, when you had approached this man on the ground, who you pronounced, did you notice any injuries to his body?
Yes.
Okay, and just describe what you could see.
He had, I don't know what kind of injury, but he had blood on his right flank, which would be on the right side of his abdomen, coming through his shirt. And he also had what appeared to be 2 bullet holes in his shirt and his chest.
So I'm going to show you 3 photographs. The first one. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
That's the injury on his right flank that we saw.
Okay. Second one.
These were the chest wounds that we saw.
Okay. And then this last one.
Yeah, it's a blow up of that chest. The previous.
A closer up of
It's a close-up of that one, it appears to be. Same thing, yes.
Did these fairly and accurately depict the condition of this man's chest area when you observed him?
Yes.
1917?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer these as the next exhibit.
Okay.
You may, could I see counsel for a moment? From time to time, there may be photographs that are introduced and that you may find graphic. And I just want to remind you that these photographs are being introduced solely for the purpose so you can see the position of the body or see any visible wounds. And consider such matters when you consider the case. Please be careful. It's very important you decide this case coldly and coolly and logically and without emotion or sympathy for anyone. So as you look at the photographs, please put aside any emotions or sympathy that any photograph may generate and look at them only for the purposes for which they are being admitted. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just decide to go ahead and
Me.
Sir, I'm now just on your left here, I'm going to place on the overhead the mark 13A. That's the photograph I showed you a few moments ago, is that true?
Correct.
What is this photograph depict?
The wound that we saw on his right flank, right side.
Okay, and you just point that out, please. You're pointing to this area here.
Correct.
Okay. And was there some blood visible on his clothing around that area?
Yes.
And just what was the condition of his clothing?
As you can see, that that it has blood stains on it. Doesn't appear to be ripped or torn or anything like that.
Was there any damage to the fabric of that?
Yes, there was some kind of penetration.
I now place 13B. In this photograph, what does this depict?
Those were the 2 holes that we saw on the chest.
And when you say 2 holes in the chest, can you point
Well,
out?
2 penetrations, right above his thumb, right there, and then directly across on the right side of his chest, right there.
Okay. Now, dealing with the one you said just above his thumb, did you notice anything about the condition of his shirt in that area?
There was some bleeding that took place there.
Okay. What about the other?
The other one had very minimal to no blood on it, I believe.
And again, in terms of the condition of the fabric, did it appear to be damaged in any way?
No, other than those penetrations, no.
And lastly, I'm putting on 13C in the overhead. Does this photograph just a closer view of the one that we just had?
Yes, I believe so.
And again, that area you referred to just above the thumb, is that visible here?
Yes. The space.
And with regard to the blood, where is the blood that you observe in relation to that penetration to the shirt?
Just below it, is that what you're asking me?
And this other one on the other side, is that reflected there?
Yes.
Okay, and just approximately in relation to this other one, how far, what distance is there between them?
Maybe 8 inches. That would be a guess.
Okay. And just in terms of, if you could, with the court's permission, Your Honor, could the witness be allowed to stand up and just point to those 2 areas on his own body?
One of them would have been about here, and the other one would have been about here.
Okay,
somewhere
you can just turn to
somewhere
thank you.
in that vicinity.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions. I beg your pardon, Your Honor. Can I get 1 minute?
You may.
Sir, last thing I wanted to ask you about is your approach to the body. how did you come from? Where did you come from? How did you approach the body?
There's a dirt road that leads down off of an asphalt space, and we walked on the side of the road, the left side of the road.
And so as you moved toward the body, what part of the body did you, what direction were you coming at it from?
We would come at it from the right side.
I'm just going to put number 12 back on the overhead. When you say coming at it from the right side,
Well, we would have come down the left side of the road, down this side here.
you're
Yes.
indicating over here?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then when you actually went up to make the observations you've described, how did you...
Just right in here, just in front of that hat that was on the ground, and then right up to his head, by his chest.
Did you ever go down into this area?
No, I don't believe so.
And did you, within a few days, did you go to the police station?
Yes.
And did you bring anything with you to the police station?
They asked me to bring my boots that I was wearing.
I could approach you.
Me.
I'm just going to show you this item, sir. This photograph. Ask you to recognize what's depicted.
Those are my boots.
Okay. And is there a person...
That's
shown?
me holding the boots.
Okay. And does this fairly and accurately show the boots that you were wearing the day you responded to this scene at Corliss Landing?
Yes.
And I'd ask that this be marked as an exhibit.
No objection.
Maybe marked as an exhibit?
Exhibit 14.
Thank you. And if I could put this on your as well. Sure, I'm putting what's now been marked as Exhibit 14 in the overhead. That's the photograph I just showed you.
Yes.
And that, what does that depict?
I'm holding my boots up so they could take a picture of the tread.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have.
Good morning, Captain White.
Morning.
So you've got a dispatch at 5:40 in the afternoon,
Yeah, in that area, yes.
and you arrived at the scene at 5:46,
Yes, probably.
and you pronounced Mr. Lloyd dead at 5:47.
Yes, probably. Those are the close times.
And the photograph that you were shown with you and an EMT and a police officer, that was taken after you had pronounced him?
Yes.
Because your first concern as you arrive at the scene as a paramedic is to make sure that if any attention can save the person, that's your priority.
Absolutely.
And you recall how long after you had determined that Mr. Lloyd was dead, that photograph was taken?
Maybe 10 minutes after, 15 minutes after, I'm not really sure when they took that
Somewhere
picture.
Around 6 o'clock or maybe a little bit later?
Somewhere in that area, I would say, yes.
And I think you said that you had an EMT with you to document your findings?
No, that was the picture of the other paramedic that came on the ambulance
Yes?
beside me.
Okay.
Yes.
And who was that person?
Josh Langell,
Langell? How do you spell that?
Langille.
And is he a member of the North Attleboro Fire Department?
Yes.
And did the two of you arrive together, or he arrived separately?
He arrived after I did.
And so I think you said you were driving an SUV type vehicle?
Yes.
That's a fire department command vehicle?
Yes.
And what kind of vehicle was he driving?
He was in the ambulance for the town of North Attleboro.
And did he arrive alone or with someone else?
With somebody else.
And who was that?
I believe his partner was paramedic Ron Burns.
And did a third fire department vehicle arrive at the scene?
Yes, that was engine 2.
Okay. And when did engine 2 arrive?
Probably close to the same time that the ambulance arrived.
And do you recall when the ambulance arrived?
Sometime a couple minutes after I arrived.
So you're the first one, and then the ambulance and the engine
Yes.
arrived shortly after.
Correct.
So how many firefighters in all were at the scene?
5.
And I think you and Mr. Langell went down to the scene where the body was.
Yeah, we were the only 2 that went down there, yes.
And you were perhaps 10 feet away or some distance away in that photograph we saw.
Yes.
And what were you doing at that time when you were photographing?
We were just documenting. We have an electronic patient care report on a computer. He was just documenting the patient care report.
Okay. Now, from where you were standing, well, let me back up. I think you said you saw some casings.
Yes.
And did you see those when you were adjacent to the body?
When I was up checking for a pulse, that's when I saw them, yes.
Okay. And did you make a report of that or tell others in the vicinity about that once you saw them?
Yeah, the police officers were there. They saw them also. I don't think I reported them to them.
All right. So were they next to you as you were looking at the body?
Yes.
So that would have been Captain Dorenzo?
The one that I remember is Detective Arrighi was closest to the body when I was at the body. That's what I recall.
So it would have been, and I think you said you approached from the head so
Yeah.
that you could make your determination.
From that side, yes.
I mean, as you approached the body, you knew that Mr. Lloyd was dead.
Well, the police were telling us that he was deceased, but it was my job to make sure they were correct.
And so you actually had to go down and see if there was a pulse and determine the warmth or lack of warmth of his body.
Correct.
And determine if rigor had set in.
Correct.
And once you did those things, you determined that it was that he had pronounced him dead.
Yes.
That's a formal job for a paramedic such as yourself.
Yes.
And I think you said that your colleague, Mr. Langwell, was there as next to the body as well.
Yes, I asked them to come down when they got there, just one of them, so we could document that.
And then Detective Arrighi was there as well.
Yes.
And Detective Arrighi was next to the body as you were examining Mr. Lloyd to determine whether...
Yeah, I think he was down near the feet, maybe.
He was down by the feet?
Yeah, he was taking pictures.
Okay. And so when you got to the body, you were able to see the casings as you were there, correct?
Yes, I did see
It
them.
wasn't until you were right there that you were able to see them, I take it.
Right, yeah, when I got to the body, I saw them, yes.
And you said that, I think you said that Detective Riggi was already there and knew, he already had observed the casings, or he said something to that effect?
I believe so, that I saw them and others were pointed out that I did not see.
Okay.
So.
And there was some discussion at some point about collecting the casings?
They were very worried about the weather that was coming in. It was starting to change. And I offered them a tent and salvage covers to cover the space up. That would be all that I could offer, that was all.
And so in your vehicle, did you have a tent?
No, we had salvage covers on the engine, but the tent came from, someone brought it up from headquarters in a pickup truck.
And one tent?
I believe I only gave them one tent, yes.
And did you or your firefighters under you set it up for them?
No. No, we gave it to the police.
And who set it up?
I have no idea.
Were you there when it was set up?
No, I was not.
Now, you have a dispatcher for the fire department, is that right?
Yes.
And as different events are taking place in a scene, you communicate with the dispatcher
Yes.
so that the dispatcher can document what's happening, correct?
Yes.
So you don't have to stop and write things down. So, does it sound correct that at 6:17, the command tents were set up for the police?
Yeah, I had switched out with the captain that came on duty at 6 o'clock by that time. I believe he brought the tents up, and we swapped out, so I was not there when the tents went up, so.
Oh, I see. So, and who was that?
I believe that would have been Captain Ronald Meyer.
So, at what point did you leave the scene?
Personally, I probably left when he came a little after 6 o'clock sometime, I would imagine.
Okay.
And, you know, if he's reporting that the tents were set up at 17 past, so maybe 10 past or so.
Okay.
We're going to take a morning recess at this time. If you mind suspended, discuss the case and yourselves with anyone else. Resume in 15 minutes.